Welcome. You're here because you're interested in helping people work through tough choices on environmental issues that face our communities, our state, our nation, and our world. Today, we're going to introduce you to facilitating or moderating deliberative forums on environmental issues. First, a little background. The Environmental Issues Forums is an initiative that involves many partners, including, we hope, you. EIF provides tools, training, and support for engaging adults and students in meaningful, productive discussions about sticky issues that affect the environment and communities. EIF is rooted in the simple notion that people need to come together to reason and talk, to deliberate about common problems. You'll see the Environment and Society series logo in the upper left corner of these slides. This is our collaborative effort to produce issue guides on sticky environmental issues like climate change, energy, and water. Here's a roadmap to what we'll be covering today. Moderating a deliberative forum is a little different than other kinds of facilitation, but if you're comfortable working with groups, you'll quickly get the hang of this. Okay, so what do we mean when we talk about deliberative forums? Deliberation comes naturally to us. We deliberate over problems at home, in coffee shops, at public meetings, and in forums. Deliberation means simply the careful weighing of options against the things we hold valuable. When citizens deliberate together about important issues, they can reach decisions and take actions together on problems that confront them. In deliberative forums, we are encouraging a particular kind of conversation. This conversation explores what people hold deeply valuable and how these underlying concerns and motivations can create common ground for decisions and actions. In a deliberative forum, people weigh different options, approaches, and actions, considering the advantages and trade-offs of each. This is more than just a discussion of pros and cons, and asks people to consider this question: if this action or approach worked perfectly, what might the downsides be? And which of these trade-offs are we willing to accept? How do we organize forums to encourage deliberation? Anyone can organize a deliberative forum. Commonly, forums are organized by community organizations, teachers and other educators, faith groups, neighborhood councils, public officials, librarians, youth groups, you name it. There are a variety of formats, including single forums, study circles where small groups deliberate about the issue over several sessions, sustained community dialogue efforts involving many forums over time, and classroom use, where forums are combined with issue investigation and other activities. Large groups can be broken into smaller forums to encourage deeper deliberation. These smaller forum groups can come together after their deliberations to share results and talk about community action. Forums are held in a variety of settings, from libraries and meeting halls to churches, community centers, and schools. Look for a neutral place where participants will feel comfortable attending and where you'll be able to hear each other and speak freely. A typical forum lasts about 2 hours, although they can vary depending on the format. And they're held at a time that will encourage participation. Organizing forums relies on many of the same common sense rules used with other public or community events, like inviting a diverse group of participants, making sure the setting is comfortable and preparing in advance. And don't worry too much if your forum doesn't reflect as much diversity of viewpoints as it might. A deliberative dialogue can happen anyway. A variety of supporting materials is available to help you organize and conduct. These materials include issue guides and issue advisories that provide a framework for deliberation. Issue guides are booklets that lay out 3 or 4 options, like the 28-page Climate Choices Guide, which we'll look at next. An issue advisory is a condensed version of the framework, usually about 4 pages long. Moderator guides that offer general guidance as well as questions specific to an issue, video discussion starters that you can use to kick off your forum, and participant and moderator questionnaires to gather insights at the end of the forum. An issue framework is a structure for a deliberative forum that describes an issue and why it's important to talk about, and then offers 3 or 4 distinct approaches to addressing the issue that reflect unique public concerns and important drawbacks. The purpose of an issue framework is to make it easier to fairly consider the issue without one-sided lectures and polarizing positions. Here's an example from the Climate Choices Issue Guide. The guide presents 3 options for addressing climate change that are based on the views and concerns of people from across the country. Climate change and how we choose to respond to it puts these essential values into tension with each other. In one view, we need to take aggressive action right away to reduce our energy consumption and other climate-changing behaviors, or we risk catastrophic effects that we cannot handle. The trade-off for this kind of security could be limits to our personal choices and freedom, as well as unfairness, as some people, communities, and businesses will be affected by the required changes more than others. Another view says that we should focus on protecting and preparing communities and businesses for the most likely effects of climate change, like flooding, drought, fire, health problems, and social unrest. The trade-off for protecting the vulnerable could be accepting greater damage from climate change and asking some people and communities to make bigger changes and sacrifices than others. Yet another view holds that we must invest in rapid innovation to develop new, cleaner fuel sources, new ways to influence Earth's climate, and even new societal arrangements. The trade-offs for this self-reliance could be failing to make progress quickly enough to avert the worst climate change impacts and the risk of causing other environmental problems and economic disruptions while we solve this one. An issue framework also provides examples of actions that fit each approach and help reveal the important conflicts and dilemmas that an issue raises. Considering these approaches and actions helps people consider what trade-offs they are willing to live with as they search for common ground. The key players in deliberative forums are a convener, who organizes the forum and invites people to come together to deliberate, a moderator, who helps guide participants in a productive dialogue, participants who bring their interests in working together to solve shared problems, and a recorder who makes sure the group can keep track of the main ideas of commonality, concern, and questions that come up during a forum. Deliberative forums are neutrally moderated. in a way that encourages positive interactions between people who are not expected to agree, but are encouraged to find a shared direction. In a deliberative forum, participants consider different viewpoints about the underlying issues and approaches to addressing them, share their own perspectives and points of view with others, look closely at the benefits and the risks and trade-offs of differing options for addressing the issue, and test their own thinking with others who are also committed to listening, learning from each other, and reconsidering their initial thoughts. Now, let's focus on you, the moderator, and what you can do to encourage forum participants to deliberate together. Moderating a deliberative forum might be a different experience for you. A moderator's role is not to be an expert or an educator, nor is it to tightly control the discussion or even to lead it. A moderator is a neutral facilitator who helps get the conversation started and keep it on track. Your main responsibilities as a moderator are to encourage an open exchange that includes everyone in the forum. Help participants focus on the trade-offs, the push and pull between the things they hold deeply valuable. Don't take sides. Be an advocate for the process of deliberation rather than taking a position on the issue. Bring in ideas and viewpoints that may be missing from the discussion, even playing devil's advocate when needed. Help participants consider the issue fairly by keeping the conversation on track and respectful. Most moderators use a structure that helps them play their roles and helps participants know what to expect during the forum. Here's a typical forum structure, including the amount of time generally used for each of the 4 stages in a typical 2-hour forum, and what the moderator is focused on in each segment of the forum. You might spend about 20 minutes in the opening stage of a forum, helping people get comfortable with each other, know what to expect during the forum, and start talking about why the issue matters to them. Many moderators start the forum by showing a short starter video that introduces the issue. You'll divide up the next hour or so evenly among the 3 or 4 options presented in the issue guide. During this time, you will help participants engage with each other to consider the advantages and consequences of each approach, sometimes challenging them with questions or viewpoints that may be missing from the conversation. During the next 20 minutes, you'll help the group reflect and wrap up, focusing on where they tend to agree, where they are still divided, and where they are undecided, and what questions they have. During this time, you can help the group focus on common ground, shared values and perspectives, and what we call fertile ground, areas where they might not agree fully, but where everyone might be able to agree with the trade-offs. Finally, take about 10 minutes for participants to fill out the forum questionnaire at the end of the issue guide. This survey can also be downloaded or filled out online. This helps participants reflect on their personal experiences and views. The questionnaire results can also be used locally or by NIF and NAAEE to offer policymakers guidance on the public's voice on key environmental issues like climate change. There is also a different questionnaire for moderators to complete, which provides your reflections on the forum. Here are some questions and ideas to get you started as you prepare to moderate each segment of a forum. Many moderators write up a set of ground rules for the forum. These sample ground rules cover listening to each other, considering the options fairly, participating openly, and disagreeing productively. Some moderators add a note about giving each approach equal time in the discussion as a way of ensuring fairness. Start with a list you're comfortable with and ask participants to add others they think would be helpful to keep their deliberation on track. Refer back to these during the forum if you need to regroup. After you've covered the basics, like where are the bathrooms and what kind of conversation are we going to have, you want to start the forum discussion in a way that helps people get to know each other and delve into why this issue matters to them and your community. Asking questions that encourage people to talk about their personal feelings and views is a good way to start a deliberative conversation that taps into what we hold deeply valuable. The heart of the forum is examining the 3 or 4 options laid out in the issue framework. Take time before the forum to prepare yourself to present the options fairly. If you, as the moderator, feel confident you understand the values and tensions of each option, you'll be able to present each with its best foot forward and help participants explore both the upsides and downsides of each approach. In the moderator's guide that accompanies each issue guide, you'll find sample questions to spark deliberation that are specific to each option. Use these in combination with more general questions, like the ones listed here, to help people dig deeper. Point people to the trade-offs listed in the issue guide. To keep the discussion open, ask people to hold off on their judgments until the forum has looked at all the options. Remember to consider each option separately, allowing about equal time to examining the advantages and trade-offs of each approach. If people bring up themes or questions that would be better explored in a later option, assure them that they will have a chance to talk about these later. You could ask the recorder to make a note of these as a reminder. In forums with a lot of like-minded folks, it's up to the moderator to fill in the missing voices. If everyone quickly rejects one option or quickly agrees on one option, or if people look at an option and say, "No one feels that way," it might be time to play the devil's advocate. Playing the devil's advocate is probably the most challenging part of moderating, but honestly facing up to tough questions is what makes a forum rewarding. You can do this with the kinds of open questions on this slide, or get specific using information from the issue guide. For example, you might ask, some people say that focusing too much on innovation would allow harmful new technologies to be approved and used, causing unintended problems. What do you think about that? The issue guide is full of specifics that can help you bring other points of view into the conversation. So, how do you know if participants in your forum are doing the work of deliberation? Moderators often look for signs like participants are talking to each other, not the moderator. People are asking each other questions and open to understanding different perspectives and exploring disagreements. The conversation focuses on what people really think, feel, and believe. People talk about trade-offs, even of ideas and options they support. People acknowledge how tough the issue is and talk about why. Once you've fairly considered all of the options, it's time to wrap up the forum. This is a time to encourage participants to reflect on the big picture and talk about how they are thinking about the issues now that they've had a chance to deliberate together. In general, forum moderators focus on 3 levels of reflection. First, individual reflections. These are questions about whether and how each person's thinking or perspective has changed, or even their thinking about other people's views. Second, group reflections, which are questions about shared purpose or direction and trade-offs that everyone can live with or are unwilling to make. Third, next step reflections. These questions help the group focus on what might come next, the value of what they've learned during the forum, and how they might use that new understanding. Here are some wrap-up questions that cover all 3 levels of reflection: individual, group, and next step. There are more suggested questions in the moderator's guide that accompanies each issue guide or issue advisory. As you plan your wrap-up, keep in mind the purpose behind your forum and what is likely to happen next with the information, insights, and momentum that might result. Forums are held for different reasons. Forums can be used to build awareness, as an educational tool, as a way of exploring issues that opens up new possibilities for action, to provide guidance on specific policy decisions, and more. Knowing the why behind your forum can help you encourage participants to reflect on the most useful questions and focus on outcomes that reflect the real accomplishments of deliberation. Many moderators take the last 10 minutes of the forum for participants to fill out the forum questionnaire, which is at the end of the issue guide. This form can also be downloaded or filled out online, but doing it at the end of the forum is one more way to help participants reflect on their personal experiences and views. Questionnaire results can also be used locally or by NIF and NAAEE to offer policymakers guidance on the public's voice on key environmental issues like climate change. There is a separate questionnaire for you to fill out. Information from forum moderators helps NIF, NAAEE, and other partners in the environmental issues forums understand more about how, where, and why forums are conducted, and fine-tune our materials and training. On the forms, you'll find instructions for submitting them by mail, email, or online. And these surveys can be downloaded as PDFs or answered online. Now, let's wrap up by addressing 4 questions that are often asked by new moderators. Can our forum combine elements of more than one option into our own approach? What if people want more information or factual questions come up? How can I present the issue in the most relevant way for my community? And maybe the most frequent, yikes, this seems like a lot for one person to handle alone. Help! In most deliberations, people tend to like some elements from each of the options. Sometimes participants' first response is, "We could do all of these things." A deliberative forum is structured to help people explore the tensions among different perspectives and approaches, as well as the pros and cons of specific actions. While mixing and matching can be a good sign in a forum, your job is to help the group avoid the "we can do it all" trap, which makes working through the options and trade-offs seem unnecessary. Asking questions that help get at trade-offs, tensions, and priorities can help move the conversation along. Sometimes forum discussions can get hung up on factual questions or disagreements that cannot be easily resolved with the information at hand. Even if you have experts in the room who could help, you want to avoid having the deliberation turn into a lecture. So, what do? Sometimes a forum will agree to move on without knowing the answer. But if your forum is having a hard time with this, try asking questions about how having that information might change perspectives, or what people might do if the information is not available or is disputed. These questions can help point your forum back to the underlying focus on the deeper concerns and motivations. Many moderators help make the forum discussions more relevant to their communities by adding local focus. This can be as simple as finding a few local statistics or examples to use as you open the forum, or asking participants to talk about how the issue is playing out locally. If you're ambitious, you can adjust the issue framework to include locally relevant information, perspectives, actions, and trade-offs. For new moderators, taking on all the responsibilities alone may seem daunting. If that describes you, then enlist the support of a co-moderator. Not only can you work together to prepare for and conduct the forum, but you can also compare notes afterward and help each other improve. So, what's next? You can practice your new skills and insights by organizing a forum. If you need help, ideas, and forum materials, both the National Issues Forums Institute and the North American Association for Environmental Education can offer support. NIF offers guides and advisories on a broad range of other issues, including some that affect both the environment and society. You can also publicize your forum on nifi.org. Common Ground for Action forums are online versions of in-person deliberative forums. In CGA, small groups are able to learn more about the tensions in an issue, examine options for dealing with the problem, weigh trade-offs, and find common ground, just like in in-person national issues forums. With the addition of visuals that let you see the shape of your conversation as it evolves, you can join in an already scheduled forum, organize your own, and even learn how to be a moderator so you can conduct your own online deliberative forums. Here are a few ways to get support if you want it. And keep an eye out for new developments and resources on the EIF webpage on the North American Association for Environmental Education's website at NAAEE.org/EIF. Here's how to get more information from 3 of the main partners in the Environmental Issues Forums initiative. NAAEE is the home for all things EIF, from issue guides to information, from training and networking to online discussion groups on a range of topics. The NIF website is a portal to information about and supporting materials for deliberative forums, and the Kettering Foundation's website offers written resources and insights about deliberation and other essential democratic practices. And let us know if there's any way we can be helpful as you get started moderating deliberative forums. Thanks for your time, your enthusiasm, and your commitment to helping people work through tough choices on environmental issues.